look at their stat sheet every single night. They can go 10, 11, 12 deep. They can interchange their starting lineup. They're so versatile at that guard spot where some questions on how they were going to work Fox in early on, how are they going to get Harper's development going with him, with Stephon Castle kind of taking that next jump, and they've just done it seamlessly, and they play defense, and again, they're obviously a much better defensive team with Wemby in the lineup, but they're finding ways to get stops. They go to small ball pretty early. Luke Cornett's been solid for him in his absence, so they're really a plug-and-play team, and they play so hard, and those guards are really, really good.
You know what everybody was saying a couple of weeks ago? No Wemby, no Castle, no Dylan Harper? Yeah, wrap it up. Spurs are cooked. They weren't wondering if San Antonio would survive, they were wondering how ugly it was gonna get. And then the funniest thing happened. Instead of falling apart, the Spurs started punching playoff teams in the mouth.
Just phenomenal collapsing defense there.
Branham Johnson! Beating Atlanta, beating Denver, locking in defensively, playing smarter, tougher, and cleaner than they did with their full roster. So, how does a team lose a 7'5" alien, a rising two-way guard, and a top rookie and somehow look more dangerous? Let's walk through it, because this might secretly be the moment their whole future changed. The Spurs came into the season with something they haven't had in years: real expectations, veteran stability, young talent that actually fits, and in the middle of it all, Victor Wembanyama, a science experiment in basketball form. 7'5", blocks everything, dribbles like a wing, shoots over entire cities. From the moment he arrived, he wasn't just a good defender, he was a one-man defensive system. Then the offense started catching up. Step backs, pull-ups, post work, passing reads. You could see it. If he stayed healthy, there was a real path where he becomes the best player in the league. The only reason anyone said a cautious optimism instead of parade route was the health scare. Wemby only played 46 games last year after dealing with deep vein thrombosis. That's serious for anyone, let alone a 7'5" shot-blocking skyscraper. But he came back stronger, sharper, locked in, and for a minute…
Victor rolling to the bucket! Oh, authority!
The Spurs looked like a problem, a big one. They started 5-0 for the first time in franchise history. Not Duncan era, not Kawhi era, not prime Big Three, this group. Wemby was going nuclear in that stretch. Around 30 points, 14 boards, a few assists, nearly 5 blocks a night. San Antonio blitzed through the opening week of the season, and they did it without the Aaron Fox, their biggest name addition and highest paid player. Wemby took the extra usage and looked even more comfortable as the offensive hub. Number 2 pick Dylan Harper slid right in. Second-year guard Stephon Castle built on his Rookie of the Year run and leveled up his numbers across the board. Everything lined up. And then, the league reminded them it doesn't care about storylines. Wemby went down on November 14th with a left calf strain. Given the recent history of calf issues turning into Achilles nightmares, San Antonio did the smart thing. Pulled the plug early, sat him down, and promised themselves they weren't rushing him back for anything. One game later, Castle went down too. So at that point, no Wembanyama, no Castle, Harper missing time. No stars, no shot. That was the script, except the Spurs refused to read it. Instead of rolling over, they went 5-2 in that next stretch. Not against tank squads, against legit teams, including a tough Hawks squad and a Western contender in Denver. So, what changed? Let's break down how a team that should have been done accidentally discovered a formula that might make them terrifying when everyone returns. First thing you need to know: you do not replace Victor Wembanyama. There's no Wemby light. There's no next man up for a guy who's putting up stat lines that only Kareem and David Robinson have ever touched. In this early season run, Wemby was on track to be just the third player since blocks were recorded to average at least…
Clowney trying to go right back at KJ. Wembanyama right there. And then again, came over late.
25 points, 10 rebounds, 4 assists, 3 blocks. Only Kareem and the Admiral have ever done that. And here's the insane part: he was doing it more efficiently than both of them. That's not a normal hole to fill. So the Spurs didn't try to replace him. They changed the game they were playing. While they wait for Wemby and Castle to get cleared, San Antonio has leaned into something way less glamorous than highlights. Possessions. It sounds too basic, right? Get more shots than the other team, win more games. But that's exactly what they've started weaponizing. Look at their win over Portland. They didn't shoot the lights out. No crazy run. No 50 bomb from a star. They just took 14 more shots than the Blazers. 14. When your 25-point franchise player is in street clothes, that kind of gap in shot volume becomes your life support. And that edge is coming from 3 places. Number 1. De'Aaron Fox taking over the offense. Number 2. Offensive rebounding. Number 3. Forcing teams into awful low-value shots. Let's start with Fox. With Wemby and Castle off the floor, San Antonio handed Fox the wheel and said, "Drive." Since then, their turnovers have crashed. 10 or fewer turnovers in 5 of 7 games without their 2 young stars. That's not a coincidence. Wemby and Castle were first and second on the roster in giveaways. Take them off, put Fox in full command, and suddenly the offense looks calmer, slower in the brain, sharper in execution. Fox is organizing everything. Getting them into sets, calling the tempo, drawing 2 and pick and roll and hitting the right read.
Johnson gets to the deck. Exclamation point for Fox. Oh!
It's the exact grown-up guard presence this roster was missing in the half-court. Then there's the glass. The Spurs are bullying teams on the offensive boards. Last year, they were fine. This year, in this no Wemby, no Castle stretch, they're hunting second chances. Jeremy Sohan is crashing in from the corners. Luke Cornett is using every inch of his size. Keldon Johnson is attacking the rim like he's trying to win a tough man contest. Those extra offensive rebounds turn empty trips into points and keep games close when your talent gap should be killing you. And then defensively, they're not trying to be cute. They're not gambling for hero steals or trying to lock guys up one-on-one like they've got peak Kawhi all over again. They're doing something a lot less flashy and a lot smarter. They're controlling where you shoot from. For years, the Spurs' defensive identity has been the same. Push teams away from the rim and the 3 and live with the mid-range. That hasn't changed. Right now, San Antonio is giving up more mid-range jumpers than anyone in the league. By a pretty comfortable margin. Opponents are hitting around 41 to 42% from there, which sounds fine until you remember that's terrible points per possession. Those shots basically never draw fouls, and every time you choose a long 2 over a 3 or a drive, you're doing the Spurs a favor. They treat every forced mid-range jumper as a small defensive win. Stack enough of those small wins, and suddenly you only need a few shot-making stretches to swing a game. And here's where the twist hits. Because this isn't just about survival. This stretch without Wemby and Castle might have unlocked something the Spurs didn't even know they had. A blueprint that could make them scarier when fully loaded. Right now, they have a possession-first identity, a veteran guard playing like an all-NBA lead engine, role players buying into dirty work, a defensive system that already knows how to tilt the math in their favor. Now imagine throwing a fully healthy Wembanyama back into that, and Castle, and a ramped-up Dylan Harper. Let's talk numbers on Fox for a second, because what he's doing is getting ridiculous. Without Wemby, Fox is averaging around 26 points, 3 rebounds, 7 assists, still flying end-to-end, still slicing through defenses at will, still finishing around the rim like he's 6'8" instead of 6'3". He's hitting 81% within 3 feet of the basket.
On Fox. Shot clock at 3. He'll fire, and he gets it to go!
And those attempts make up almost a fifth of his offense. That kind of rim pressure forces defenses into ugly decisions. Drop and give him space, he'll walk you into the paint. Step up higher, he'll start kicking out the shooters or hitting bigs on the short roll. Normally, this is where you'd say, cool, they just go under and live with the jumper. Except Fox has started nuking that too. His mid-range has been shaky, just 30% from 10 feet out to the arc. So he adjusted. He started leaning into threes. In this stretch without Wemby, Fox is taking over 6 threes per game and hitting about 38%. If that holds, that's a career high. Now you're dealing with a guard who can collapse your defense at the rim, punish you if you sag, run the offense with slow turnovers, and close games. The Spurs are 8-5 in the games he's played during this stretch. That's not an accident. Even the locker room knows it. Mitch Johnson, their head coach, he's got a lot we're asking from him right now. Keldon Johnson, longest tenured Spur, obviously the Aaron's been great. He's really carried us. And the fun part? He won't have to carry as much once everyone's back. Dylan Harper has already returned and is slowly getting ramped up. On paper, he's the perfect running mate for Fox. Why? Because Harper can act as a secondary creator. He can handle, he can initiate, he can get to the lane, kick, and run the second unit when Fox sits. In his limited games, Harper hasn't looked like a nervous rookie. He plays like someone who's already got 2 years under his belt.
A terrific shooter, obviously.
Harper's got his first bucket at home. Count it and a foul.
He doesn't rush, he doesn't force, he gets into the paint, makes the simple read, and keeps the offense alive. So when Fox checks out, the Spurs don't have to abandon their structure. The ball doesn't die. The possession-first identity stays. But don't get it twisted. This surge isn't just about the new toys. The long-time Spurs have been massive. That Nuggets game, that was their statement. They were down big early. Denver went on a 23-8 run in the second. San Antonio walked into halftime down 74-59. On paper, everything screamed, it's fine. This is the scheduled loss. They were missing their 2 best defenders. They were playing the defending champs. They were facing Nikola Jokic, the best player on the planet, and Jamal Murray. Logic said this was a mismatch. The Spurs didn't care. They battled back with hustle plays. They hit 2 4-point plays that flipped the energy of the building. They played like this was Game 7, not an in-season group game. Why? Because for them, it kind of was. This wasn't just about making the NBA Cup quarterfinals. It was about sending a message. We can beat elite teams without our star. So imagine us with him. Devin Vassell had the game of his life. 35 points on 12 of 17 shooting. 7 of 9 from 3. Every time Denver tried to claw back, he drilled a dagger. People were calling him one of the early disappointments of the season. That game, that looked like a turning point. He's leaning into his off-ball role now, coming off screens, punishing late rotations, killing teams that overhelp off him. Then there's Keldon Johnson, the emotional engine. He and Julian Champagnie were the ones dragging the Spurs back into the fight. Diving on the floor, crashing the glass, yelling after stops. Keldon nearly put up another double-double with 14 and 8. Not perfect defensively, but relentless. And that matters. Champagnie has quietly become a real rotation piece. He spaces the floor, he competes defensively. He gives Red Bull energy minutes with actual shooting touch. He has that Harrison Barnes in a good day vibe. And then you've got the actual Harrison Barnes. 33 years old, no ego, just vibes, experience, and open threes. He's shooting over 40% from deep, standing in the exact spots defenses don't want shooters standing in, and making them pay for helping off him. That 31-point night against Memphis, going 7 for 12 from 3, was a reminder that he's not just a role player statue. He's still a bucket when you need him to be.
Barnes. Cross. Drive. Barnes. Look out!
All of this is happening without Wemby and Castle. And yet, over the stretch, the Spurs are sitting top 10 in scoring, offensive rating, net rating. This isn't a team hanging on. This is a team evolving. During the tank years, the fear was simple. What if losing becomes their identity? Instead, this run has shown the exact opposite. They compete. They run real actions. They don't panic when they get punched. They close out games. Now the big question. What happens when Wembanyama and Castle plug back into this? Because when they return, this possession-heavy identity should get even nastier. Castle, who was leading the league in turnovers earlier this year, won't be asked to spam pick and roll for 35 minutes. He'll slide into a secondary ball handler role, sharing the floor with Fox or Harper at all times. Less responsibility, cleaner reads, fewer mistakes. Same thing for Wemby. He won't have to initiate as much from the perimeter. Let Fox run the show. Let Harper bend the defense. Let Wemby do what he does best. Punish mismatches. Destroy at the rim. Be the most terrifying help defender alive. That should cut his turnovers and bump his efficiency even higher. Defensively, the potential is disgusting. Fox at the point of attack. Castle with real on-ball stopper potential. Vassell playing his best defense in years. Harper adding length and activity. And then Wemby behind all of that? That's chaos. More steals, more blocks, more transition chances, more possessions, feeding right back into the thing that's driving this entire mini-search.
He used it well that time to work himself into the paint with that turnaround jumper. I'm not even sure he was aware Victor was there.
Victor got him right back.
And here's the part nobody's ready for. Even with all the injuries, cold shooting, and early turnover issues, the Spurs were still sitting 7th in offensive rating after Thanksgiving. 7th. So if they get healthy, if they keep dominating the possession game, if Fox keeps this level and Wemby slots into a cleaner role, this offense might go from surprisingly good to top tier real fast. It's not flashy. It's not driven by 40-point isolation nights. It's driven by math, by effort, by structure. And once Wemby and Castle are back, that structure might turn into something scary. So, what do you think? Are the Spurs just on a cute little hot streak? Or are we watching the birth of a legit Western Conference problem the second everyone's back on the floor? Because one thing is clear. This is not the same San Antonio Spurs team anymore.